Hey there, fearless fundraisers. Welcome back to another episode on our YouTube channel. If this is the first time you're here, you're in for a great conversation. If you've been with us before, welcome back. We're so glad to have you. So who's this channel for? It's for all of you fearless fundraisers out there that are building better tomorrows every day. We applaud the work you're doing, and we're so happy that you're here to gain some insights about the future of fundraising. So come on for the ride. We have a wonderful guest today. He is a thought leader and the founder of Boodle AI. I'm so happy to have him. So let me introduce our guest, the one and only Mr. Sean Olds. Hello, Sean. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Morning, Don. Very well. Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so glad to have you here because all our fearless fundraisers are listening. And by the way, if you're out there, please make sure that you're subscribing because we want to keep you in tune to all of the great conversations on this channel. But back to you, Sean, why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, tell us about Boodle, how you founded the company, and let all of our audience get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. No, thanks, Don. I appreciate it. And again, we really appreciate being here. It's exciting. So I started my career as a computer scientist at West Point, actually. But I have to give credit where credit is due. I did not build or code Boodle. The languages I coded in college are now taught in the history of computers class. So I have a wonderful development team who built Boodle. But I went into the Army. I grew up to a military father. And when I graduated West Point, I knew my entire career path from platoon leader to chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I was going to be a 4-star general. And as things work out, I had an accident in training, a parachute accident, and was medicaled out of the Army and had to find new paths. And one of the first things I did was went into consulting, which led to working with startups. And that's how I got my start in startups. But the other thing it allowed me to do was the ability to focus on nonprofit work, which I had started right after I graduated West Point, but was limited in what I could do because of my time in the military. Being out of the military, not at risk of deploying, I was really able to focus a lot of time on board efforts, working with nonprofits. And so spent the past 20 plus years doing working professionally with startups and on the side working as a board member with nonprofits. And you asked about the genesis of Boodle. About 5 years ago, my co-founder, who I had gone through Army Ranger School with, reached out to me. I was in town visiting and said, hey, I've got an idea. And his idea was Boodle. And he had had a particularly miserable experience on a fundraising campaign, a capital campaign he had been on, and said, this is ridiculous. I know there's technology out there in the commercial space that does this. Why don't nonprofits have it? And that was the genesis of Boodle, the goal of democratizing data science and machine learning for nonprofits. And that's what we set out to do. 5 years ago, I sat down with the development team and I said, imagine that our end user knows how to Google, watch Netflix, and order on Amazon. It can't be anything more difficult than that. I would conjecture that the majority of people on this call today could not explain to you how video over IP works, but they don't have to. Zoom makes it very easy to just press a button and engage in it. And
Like what we're doing right now.
as we're doing right now. And so we wanted to do the same thing for data science. We wanted to be able to give fundraisers the ability to engage in data science so that they could spend less time fundraising and more time focused on their missions.
All right. Well, before I go any further, I want to thank you for your service. We have our freedom because of people like you and your dad and your family. So thank you so much for your service. That's an amazing story. We love storytelling here at One Cause. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that. So I want to just jump right in. Just get it right out there. How does artificial intelligence, AI, play into fundraising? And why is that important? We think about events and online giving and recurring donations and Giving Tuesday. And, that seems to be the heartbeat, if you will, of fundraising. I don't know that our audience out there is always thinking about artificial intelligence. And if you are, we applaud you. But how does it fit in? Why is it important? Why should nonprofits be thinking about that?
Absolutely. So why organizations should be thinking about AI and data science is, and most organizations have heard about it. A lot of them get scared. A lot of them picture the Terminator with red eyes coming at them, or they just think, wow, I don't have a PhD in mathematics or computer science, so I can't do this. The reality, and if there is one thing, we're hopefully emerging out of the pandemic. We're virtual this year because the pandemic has continued, but if there is lemonade to be made out of the lemons of the pandemic, it is that nonprofits have accelerated more around the technology adoption curve in the past year than they have the past decade. So they are much more apt to use technology. I mean, think about it. A major gift fundraiser 2 years ago who was trying to raise a major gift over Zoom would have been fired. Now they do it all the
Good
time.
point.
They
Yeah,
have
good
to,
point.
right? So we've become adaptive to different technologies, and it's not as scary anymore. And so we're hoping that more nonprofits, as they hear more about AI, machine learning, and data science, will get more comfortable with it. But what does it do? Well, again, it's what I mentioned a minute ago. It's helping an organization spend less time on kind of the grunt work of fundraising and be able to focus on what most organizations are very good at, which is that donor cultivation, the working with donors, engaging donors, and building that base of lifetime donors. And then what's really important to the organization is leveraging that to meet the mission. One of the things that has always been frustrating to me as a nonprofit board member is when you're in a smaller nonprofit, the 30 days before a gala, it's all hands on deck for the gala. People are
Of
not
course,
focused on the mission. They're focused on
without question.
what centerpieces are going out. Did we get the invites out? And that to me is so distressing because there's a need not being met during that time. And so if you can leverage things like machine learning, AI, we work with one company who does, they're a consulting firm that does annual fundraising campaigns, capital campaigns. And the reason they partner with us is they would spend 3 months of human time going through all the data, trying to figure everything out. And then they only got 9 months to fundraise. They can now literally do everything they did in 3 months in less than 3 days with our platform. And now they've got a full year to go out and fundraise. So it just makes organizations more efficient. It also allows them to see things that they just can't find otherwise. We worked with an organization. One of the campaigns we love to run is what we call a hidden gems campaign. So the first thing we do is we walk in, we ask them for all their major gift donors. We then model those major gift donors and we apply that model to all of their other donors. So we were working with a particular nonprofit. They gave us 800 plus major gift donors. We applied that to every one of their donors who had donated less than $100, gave them about a dozen names. Very first phone call made a $20,000 donation. The
Come
only
on,
thing,
Sean.
no,
Really? Is
not
this
kidding. The
a true
only thing,
story?
the only thing they were upset
Wow.
about, it's a case study on our
Wow.
website if you want to find it. The only thing they were upset about is that person had been donating $100 a year for the past 8 years.
For
So they,
sure. The
but that,
intelligence, right.
but that data is out there, Don. To answer your question, the data is out there, and it's not always possible for a human to get through it. A machine is able to parse through that. Now, what's important, though, is the AI can't do it by itself. We always tout that the most powerful development team is the human machine team. So the machine can do the work a human would take weeks, if not months, to do if they could do it at all. But what the machine can't do is understand the individuals they're reaching out to, ask in the right way, understand the concept of what's going on in the world. If one of your biggest donors just had a death in the family, well, that's not the time to go ask, even though they might be primed to ask. Now that's the time to send flowers, condolences, and then follow up later on. And that's what you need the human and the development team for.
Can you give us another example of some of your successes that you've seen,
Sure.
working? Yeah, let's hear them.
Yeah,
Let's put you to the test.
one I love to tell is we're and they let us use their name as the Air Force Academy. So they brought us on particularly to help with direct mail. One of the predictive models we've built is around people who will reply to direct mail versus email versus text. And so we gave them the direct mail predictive model. They applied it to their first direct mailing of the year. And we told them basically anybody with a score of 59 or below, don't send direct mail to. Anybody 60 and above, you should send direct mail to. And they said, okay, thank you very much. And then they went off and they didn't tell us this, but they mailed everybody. And they, over 9 months, they had 3 more campaigns. And every time they ran our model, but they still ran the whole thing. And all 3 campaigns, the 59s and below, they didn't donate. The 60s and above, they donated. And so
Wow.
now they're able to reduce their printing and postage budget by over 40%.
Of course.
Because they're able to cut all those lower ones out and only focus on the people who are likely to respond.
Well, what I love about that story is not only are you seeing, consistent results over a period of time, but you're learning to trust, right? Because I
Yes,
think we have two issues with, machine learning. One, oh my God, the fear. How do I get started? What do I do? But then trusting it, right? Trusting that work. But this is a testament to both of those things, which
absolutely.
is, yeah, super awesome. So all right, how do you get started, right? We heard some examples. We're bought in. We've heard the chirping out there about, machine learning and, data driven, donor engagement and all artificial. We've heard all of that, but we've experienced so much change in the last 18 months that I think our audience really is like, okay, I got to do something better, different, work harder, work smarter, not harder. So, okay, Boodle, how do we engage? Like, what does it look like? What's the journey with Boodle look like? What are the opportunities for a nonprofit to engage Boodle? Is it DIY? Is there a lot of consulting? Take us through that journey.
Absolutely. So the journey, as I mentioned before, we try to make it easy. I told our development team, build a user interface, assuming our end user can Google, watch Netflix, or order on Amazon. Just got to be that simple.
I can do all three.
If
So
you
I'd
can
be
do all three,
successful with Boodle.
you will
Okay.
absolutely be successful. So we've built it into a crawl, walk, run experience. So the first part is bring us a set of donors you want to understand better. Bring us a set of prospects you want to understand better. Load them out of your CRM into a CSV file, load the CSV file in. And the first thing we're going to do is provide personas, just basic personas. And all we need, by the way, because we knew nonprofits many times have skinny data, very limited data, we've built the whole system to work with just a name and an email address. We hear so many nonprofits in our first conversation like, oh, my data is really messy. I don't care. Do you have a name and an email address? That's all we need. We can do from that identity resolution of being able to go in and find the Shonolds that's in the donor database. We can identify that that's the Shonolds that lives in Northern Virginia, not the Shonolds that lives in, say, Boise, Idaho. And then what we're able to do is map myself into 3 third-party databases we have access to. And we bring in over 1,200 different data points about me and everybody in that cohort. And what's unique with our predictive analytics is a lot of predictive analytics companies are going to focus on what we call affinity-based data. So Don, I'm sure you've Google searched something, you've looked at something, and then the next time you open a news web browser, that website appears.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
know. I feel like
because
I'm being watched, of course.
and that's all it is. It's intent-based data. So organizations buy the fact that you looked at a website and then they advertise to you. We didn't want to go that route because we wanted to focus on who's going to become a lifetime donor to the organization, who has an affinity towards the cause. And so what the data points that we bring in are over 1,200 data points that really define who an individual is. And so with those 1,200 data points now, the first thing we can do in the crawl phase is give you personas. So let you know what demographic this group of donors falls into, what religion they skew towards, what gender they skew towards, what age group they skew towards. We can provide you top level interests that they have. So we had one organization we worked with recently. They were looking at actually their gala participants and found out there was a high interest in hunting, which they hadn't. And as they logic through it and walk through it with the team, several of the team members said, this makes sense given where most of our donors come from. But they had never really logic through that before. The machine discerned that and was able to find that out. And that's the most fun, is when our clients start to see things and a couple of people on the team will go, that doesn't make any sense. And a couple other people will raise their hands and go, actually,
I
it
think
does. And
it
here's
does make
why.
sense.
I
Yeah.
just hadn't thought about it. So that's the crawl phase. The walk phase is we've built a library. We're up to over 40 of them now of instant predictions that we've built. So affinity towards veterans causes, affinity towards healthcare causes. So even if you don't have a lot of data, but you have some prospects, you can take some of these instant models and leverage them to help you gain insights on the prospects that you're looking at. And then finally, the run portion of our platform is that ability to build bespoke models, bespoke predictions. So I mentioned the Hidden Gems campaign that we did before with the nonprofit, building a bespoke model of not what a major gift donor looks like, but what a major gift donor looks like for that organization, and
Which is
allowing
different,
them just different. And
different from organization to organization.
absolutely. The major gift donors for a St. Jude's is probably going to look a lot different than the major gift donors for say a museum someplace on the West Coast. And being able to dig in and see the features that lead to each of those models helps an organization really target, rather than just saying, hey, I'm just going to go hit wealthy people, because that doesn't work. If tomorrow, Don, you become the head of the All Things Apple Foundation, and I give you a list of 10,000 people you can go after, and Bill Gates is on that list, well, if you go on just wealth, you're going to reach out to Bill Gates. But you and I both know Bill Gates isn't going to give you any money. So it's much better to weed the Bill Gateses of the world out and focus on, out of that 10,000, who are the 1,000 that actually have an affinity towards your cause. And
Right.
now let's go out and have my development team focus on those people.
All right. So I heard a few things. Do you mind if I just
Please.
So first, if you can log into Hulu, if you could log into Netflix, then data-driven donor engagement should be just as easy with a partner like Boodle. Is that right? True or false?
Absolutely true.
Okay, good. That's true. What I also heard was you can't approach your top donors as everybody else is doing. It is specific to your organization, who your top donors are. There's really not a cookie cutter approach, and you have to peel back the layers of the onion in order to find out where the money is for you, where you can go. And there's kind of really, if you're going to do this cookie cutter approach, you're probably going to get cookie cutter results. The only way to do that is from a data-driven resource. True or false?
True.
Okay. So, okay, why is not everybody partnering with Boodle? I got to ask.
One is we're still getting out there. I mean, we're relatively young. We launched our first year last year.
Okay.
So we have over 100 clients on the platform right now, and continue to grow. I think the second big reason is we started initially just focused on getting out there and talking to individual nonprofits. Just over the past several months, we've started to engage partners with the one-to-many relationships. But initially, we wanted to make sure that the platform worked well and delivered what it needed to do. And now that we're confident in that, we're expanding out further.
So you not only tell your customers to crawl, walk, run, but you crawl, you wanted to get it right, do it right. Absolutely. And I love that. And so I guess then you don't have to run tomorrow. You could just do something as opposed to nothing. Do something and crawl first, right? Take your crawl steps, because that's what's good. Just like a toddler, that's what's going to teach you to run the marathon. So absolutely. Okay, I love this. You're really breaking it down. You're making it easy, not just in, an execution, but also in how do I approach this? So I thank you for that. So what didn't you expect in your journey with Boodle for, you said 5 years, right? What happened in that 5-year period that you didn't expect with Boodle that actually occurred?
Probably the latest evolution that we took this year, and we made 2 big evolutions.
Tell me about it. I want to hear.
So when we entered this year, one of the things we noticed, while our revenues were increasing, we were losing a lot of prospective sales. And a large part of that, and so we started to reach out. My co-founder and I started calling these people who had not come on board, and to a T, it was pricing. And we were, at the beginning of the year, we were a typical SaaS enterprise license model. So minimum license was $18,000 a year to get on the platform. Okay. And the epiphany that France, my co-founder, and I had was we were selling people a Lamborghini, but the majority of people we were talking to were at their corner 7-Eleven, a mile from their house, with a gallon of milk, and they just wanted to get home. So when we sold them the Lamborghini, they were never going to get it out of first gear. Yeah. So France and I did a lot of research, and we happened upon what HubSpot did right before they IPO'd, what Twilio launched with, and what a percentage of other SaaS companies do, which is called usage-based selling and pricing. And so in that, you don't lower your pricing, you just break everything you own into its component parts, and then you sell the components. And so now people are able to select and go, well, I don't need the Lamborghini, I just need this portion. And so we were able to get to a point now where we can actually bring a client onto the platform for $499 a year. They're not getting the Lamborghini.
Stop. We have to repeat that. $499 a year?
Absolutely. So they can get started. Going back to your ability to crawl. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm doing some math here.
Getting back to your ability to crawl and not have to go to run right away. At $499, you can crawl and experiment. And we're getting organizations that are able to do that, experience it, play with it. And now it's not theoretical to them. They can see the value in it and they can decide where they want to expand and how they want to grow.
That's $41.58 a month.
That's what it breaks out to. And
Okay.
interestingly, I'll tell you right now, most of our clients don't enter at that. Once they understand the pricing is lower, they start to see other things they want and they'll come on for a little bit more. But again, they're picking and choosing what they want. They're not being forced to take the whole package.
Got it.
And then they can grow with the platform. So that was one I never would have imagined, being able to actually, and at that point, I mean, we truly feel like at that point we've democratized data science. We're not out of the reach of any organization to try us.
For sure.
The second thing that we ran into at the beginning of this year was clients would get the insights we gave them and they get really excited, like, wow, you've taught me things about my donors I didn't know. Or one of the other things we run, we build what we call your emerging donor profile. So we'll build your primary donor profile, but most organizations actually have an emerging donor they're not paying attention to. And if they don't cultivate it, they're never really going to grow it. And so we get these organizations very excited, and then they would look at us and they say, but what do I do now? And we never had that, what do I do now? And just through exploration, my co-founder who serves as our chief strategy officer started talking to companies that do what's called IP household targeting. So there's a series of about 8 companies out there that have gone to the exercise of mapping every postal address to an IP address. So they cater to companies that really, really focus on doing direct mail and saving them direct mail costs. Because direct mail knows the address of their customer and they're printing a heavy catalog or something else that they're sending out. What this company does is say, hey, don't send that catalog out. For the same price of that catalog, you give me the address and I'll put an ad, a banner ad for 30 days every day into the person's web browser, into their ESPN news feed, you go down the list of where people are looking and there's ad space, and they're able to do that. So wonderful for donor cultivation. Great way to stay in touch with your donors. When you marry that with what we're doing, where I can now go model for an organization what their best major gift donors look like, and they can come back and go, you know what? We really don't have that many major gift donors in Philadelphia. Well, now because we went through the exercise last year of mapping all 240 million adult Americans, I can go in and model 3 million households in Philadelphia and identify the 3,000 of them that look the most like an organization's major gift donors. And now they can do donor acquisition by sending banner ads straight into those households for their organization. Or in the case of organizations that are doing galas, being able to do it right after a gala and hit those people up as there's news and other information about what went on. And so it's just a new way to reach out that was nothing we ever imagined doing. When we started down this route, it was all about providing predictive insights and predictive analytics. But you got to listen to your customers. You know this as you've grown OneCause. You were with OneCause when it was with BidPal, and
I sure was. That's right.
You guys had to listen because I'm sure you would fully admit BidPal wouldn't work in its current form today. But you listened to your customers, you evolved, and you met their needs.
Wow, Sean, I appreciate that transparency. That's incredible to know that, not only with a partnership with Boodle, that I can come in at a price point that's comfortable for me, at a pace that's comfortable for me, but also that you're going to grow with me and listen to me and help me have, a full service package that's driven by data and going to drive results. It's almost a shoo-in, so to speak. So I really appreciate that. We probably have a time for one more question, but I really want to know, like, looking into the future, and this is something that you can't rely on data for, but I'm going to ask anyway, what are you most excited about? Well, like, what's on the horizon? Can you tell me anything that we want our audience to know? Like, what's got you fired up right now for the future?
Well, on the near term, it's of course the Raise conference next week. So that's what's got us.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for
absolutely. I'll be even more excited next year when we get to do it again in person. So it's last
crossed.
Last one in Chicago was wonderful, but no, we're very excited by that. I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning. What I'm most excited about is watching nonprofits get stronger and more efficient and more effective in their meeting their missions by using technology, whether it's for fundraising or programmatic ways. I mean, I often do a webinar on AI and philanthropy, and only a small portion of that is on fundraising. There's actually ways that nonprofits are using AI today to make their programs more effective. So Refugee United, they now use AI facial recognition to be able to go into refugee camps and identify people and kids that would have taken them months, if not years, to do sometimes, because they were going in with these big books and just kind of thumbing through a book. Now they can hold a phone up to a face and in seconds identify who someone is and get them placed appropriately. That makes them much more efficient and makes them more efficient in their fundraising, because now donors don't feel like they're just giving money away. They feel like they're truly investing, because now they see a much bigger ROI for every dollar that they're putting in.
Wow. Well, I'm really excited to see where you go from here. It's just going to be amazing. And we love the partnership. We love everything that that we can do together. We're looking forward to your session, at Raise. We look forward to that, every year. But so now how do we get started, right? I noticed on your website, there's a 14-day free trial. So that's pretty cool, right? We can start right there. But give us all the ways that we could engage and connect with you. Of course, social media, website. I see your background, that if audience, you can see that. I don't know if I'm supposed to be pointing this way or that way, but so tell us how we can engage with you. Who do we need to talk to?
Absolutely. Number one, go to the website. And if you want the 14-day free trial, we can go there. If you're ready to get started, we have optimization packages, as I mentioned, at $4.99.
That's
and
incredible.
We can get started that way. Anybody at any time should feel free, as you mentioned, call me, email me. Our company number is on the website, but our team would be more than happy to sit down. If you're not ready to jump in just yet, even for a trial, and just want to walk through a full demo, we have a full team that would sit down and walk through anybody with that. But I would highly encourage anybody who's interested, reach out. And even if it's just to discuss AI in general, as I mentioned, 25 years in the nonprofit space, Boodle is built on an ethos of giving back. So if you're an organization that says, hey, I'm not worried about AI and fundraising, but I want to understand how I might use it programmatically, I have those conversations several times a month with organizations, and happy to do so if it's going to make them more efficient.
Well, you heard it best here, Fearless Fundraisers. Data-driven donor engagement, that intelligence, that insight, that's going to be your future. So whether it's today or tomorrow, you should be thinking about that space. And Boodle's here to help. So educate yourself, learn, see what you can do, crawl, because next week you might be walking, and then the following week you might be running. And Boodle's going to take you through that journey in a very easy way, just like turning on Hulu. We heard it here from Sean. He said it. So I am so appreciative of everybody that tuned in today. Sean, thank you so much for joining us. I was intrigued every step of the way. Love hearing your personal story, Boodle story, where you are, where you're going. It was really very, very exciting. So thank you so much for joining us. And to all our fearless fundraisers out there, if you like this video, please give us some thumbs up, show Sean some love. Of course, comment below. We will check in regularly to answer. I'll invite Sean back to reply. If I don't have the answer, I'm sure we can get it directly from Sean. So be sure to subscribe because we have great thought leaders just like Sean coming in future episodes. So thank you again for tuning in. I hope you learned something today. Stay fearless out there, and keep fundraising going forward, and keep your missions at the forefront. Thanks. Bye all. Bye, Sean.
Bye. Thank you.